Hey guys, in today's tying video, I'm going to be tying up a great little spring leech pattern. This one is called the Bruised Egg Sucking Leech. For this tie, I'm using Togens Scud hooks, 3X heavy in size number 10. Love using these hooks for leeches as they have a really wide gape and are super durable to these spring trout. I'll be adding Togens Tungsten Cool beads in fluorescent orange. These ones are size 1/8. For my thread, I'm using Semperfli's Nano Silk, 6/0 or 100 denier in black. Very durable thread, you can really crank on that. And for the body of the fly, I'm using Arizona's Simi Seal in black blue color. To add a little bit of weight, I'm using some lead wire in 0.015. That just helps keep the fly down in the lower water column as the fish are cruising the shoals looking for a good meal. This one definitely packs a lot of protein. This fly does particularly well on any lakes that have native trout that are spawning or salmon that are spawning in either the spring or the fall. So you want to get your thread started and just get about halfway down the hook, and this is just going to give you parameters to tie that lead in. Give it about 7 or 8 little wraps, and then you can compress those wraps together with the bead, make it nice and concise, and then just pinch off the tail end of there, and it usually breaks free nice and clean. And then to tie this lead in, I find using some figure 8s back and forth with that thread kind of locks it and keeps those coils concise, and then you can wrap on top of that and get a little bit of a base so that that lead doesn't move around on you. And just bring your thread down to the base of the hook. Be careful with this nano silk not to nick the point of your hook, as it will fray pretty easily, but the stuff is super durable. I love it for these leeches because you can really crank on it, and especially for the dubbing loop, you can twist that thing up very tight. As you're tying in the tail fibers of that Simi seal, always make sure to get a wrap or two underneath the tail fibers to lift them up and prevent them from wrapping around the hook bend when this pattern gets wet. And then when you're happy with the tail of the fly, you can make a dubbing loop with your thread and get your dubbing twister locked into that and set aside, and then advance your thread to the front of the hook, give a little security whip finish, and set that in the bobbing cradle out of the way. I like to prepare my Simi seal on my tying bench, lay it out all nice and horizontally, and then make sure that it's evenly dispersed. And then when adding that carefully to your dubbing loop, I'll always hold that dubbing loop horizontally so that the Simi seal doesn't slide down your dubbing loop, but you can nicely get it evenly distributed throughout that. And then with your twister, you can really crank on this thread, make sure that it's nice and tight and those fibers aren't going to slip out of there. That's what's so nice about using the Semperfli Nano Silk, so you can really crank on that dubbing loop, make sure that it's nice and secured and not going anywhere. And then go ahead and brush out some of those fibers. I just use a Dr. Slick dubbing tool for that. Make sure that everything's nice and horizontal and not bunched up on itself. And then as you wrap this dubbing loop to the front of the hook, make sure that you're using your offhand to sweep those dubbing fibers back. Make sure that it's nice and concise. I should mention as well that I do tie this particular leech pattern balanced, so if you're ever suspending that under an indicator, this one can be lights out, as well as using it on a full sink line or intermediate line and stripping it in the shoals. And now once you've got your dubbing loop and all the Simi seal tucked back, give a couple of securing wraps in behind that loop and in front to lock it off. And then get your scissors in there nice and close as you can. And then the secret to finishing this fly is to add a little pinch of Simi seal to your thread, just in a dubbing noodle. Get the tip of that just tucked in behind the bead, and then you can always wrap that up nice and tight. And we'll brush this out after, and it will make it very seamless. You won't even see your thread. When you are whip finishing this nano silk, you can really crank on it and make sure that it sinks down in behind that bead, so there's no need for any crazy glue. And then once you're satisfied with that, give it a little trim. My wife's a hairdresser, so I often use the slide cut technique. You don't want to do an abrasive chop. You want to make sure that these fibers are nice and uneven and swept back. That looks pretty good there. And then after you finish brushing this fly out and getting it to the point where you're happy with that, I advise you to give it a hot water bath, just in some near boiling water, and then you'll really start to see that teardrop shape, and it gives you an idea of how this fly is going to look in the water. I want to take a moment to thank Togens Fly Shop for some amazing products, and Semperfli for your nano silk. This stuff is just great to tie with. You can really crank on it. It's going to give this fly some great durability. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. If you guys see me on the waters, be sure to stop by and say hi, and thanks again for watching.